हाँ. Good morning, everyone. I am presenting a journal club on the topic Emotion Processing Deficit in Euthymic Bipolar Disorder, a potential endophenotype. My moderator is Dr. Dhyanisa. About the journal, this article has been taken from the Indian Journal of Psychological Medicine, which is an open access, peer-reviewed journal which publishes high-quality, empirical, original research and review articles pertaining to all domains of psychiatry. This is the official publication of Indian Psychiatric Society, South Zonal Branch. The editor-in-chief is Dr. Shahul Amin, who's a psychiatrist at the St. Thomas Hospital, Kerala. This article was submitted on the 3rd of August 2020, accepted on 31st May 2021, and published online on 20th August 2021. The article topic is Emotion Processing Deficit in Euthymic Bipolar Disorder, a potential endophenotype. The authors are as follows. The introduction. Emotion processing is a complex cognitive task that involves identifying others' emotions, processing them, and responding optimally in a social realm. Emotion processing deficits have been described in patients with bipolar disorder, and they are considered one of the core cognitive abnormalities in bipolar disorder with endophenotype potential. Recent study on face emotion recognition deficits FERD in early adolescence concluded that youth with increased psychological and or somatic problems exhibited a processing bias for negative anger and fear expressions. Evidence suggests that emotion processing deficits may be a trait marker for bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder is hypothesized to be an outcome of abnormal emotion processing, and FERD has been demonstrated in bipolar disorder relative to healthy individuals during mania, depression, as well as remission. These deficits may be the harbinger of pathological mood dysregulations and strained interpersonal relationships, leading to poorer long-term outcomes. FERD studies in remitted bipolar disorder have reported mixed results. While most of them have reported a decrease in fear, anger, and disgust recognition in remitted bipolar disorder, studies have also documented an extended reaction time for recognition of disgust, surprise, and neutrality, and confusion between fear and surprise, anger and disgust, disgust and sadness and neutrality. Some studies have reported impaired ability of bipolar disorder patients to perceive the intensity of a facial emotion. Other studies have reported no FERD in remitted bipolar disorder relative to controls. Abnormalities of FERD can be divided into two conditions: automatic intuitive processing limbic deficits and directive higher order cortical deficits. These are demonstrated by difficulties in matching and labeling respectively. FERD has also been investigated as a potential endophenotype in first degree relatives or the high-risk HR subjects of bipolar disorder patients. Few studies have shown that bipolar disorder patients and their unaffected first-degree relatives both have deficits in FERD. There are also studies that have not shown any emotion recognition deficits in these first-degree relatives. To consider a cognitive parameter as a potential endophenotype, it must be heritable, associated with the disorder in the population, be present in a remitted state, be demonstrable in the unaffected family members. Available literature, although on the endophenotype potential of FERD in bipolar disorder, is scarce and with conflicting results and merits further investigation. The aim of this study is to this study examines the specific processes of face emotion recognition deficits in the remitted adult subjects with bipolar disorder and first degree relatives of subjects with bipolar disorder or the high risk compared to healthy subjects or the HC healthy controls. The study hypothesized that there would be greater deficits in emotion processing among the remitted subjects and the high risk subjects of the disease subjects than healthy controls, and that face emotion recognition deficits could thus serve as a potential endophenotype. The materials and methods used. This is a cross-sectional study conducted at a tertiary care psychiatric institute in India. Three groups were included: 30 subjects with bipolar disorder, 21 high risk, and 30 healthy controls. Written informed consent was obtained, and the study recruitment happened between May 2011 and January 2014. Those who fulfilled the DSM-4 criteria for bipolar disorder type 1 were recruited under the BD group. The HR and HC groups were screened for psychiatric disorders using a Mini 5.0 screener, which is the Mini International Neuropsychiatric Interview. Edinburgh Handedness Inventory was used to assess the handedness in all of these groups, and only right-handed individuals were included, as studies show a consistent relationship between lateralization of affective processing motor dexterity and language in individuals with clear right-handedness. Family interview for genetic studies was used to assess the family history in the three groups. Clinical Global Impression Scale was used to assess the severity of illness. The inclusion criteria was all participants were in the age range of 18 to 50 years. They were all right-handed, had at least 7 years of formal education with no neurological and other medical disorders. All patients with bipolar disorder had to be in remission as assessed using the CGI scale. HR subjects did not have a family history of psychiatric illness in the first degree relatives other than bipolar disorder. The healthy controls did not have a family history of psychiatric disorder among their first degree relatives. These three groups were matched for age, years of education, sex, and handedness. The unaffected siblings, offspring of identified probands formed the HR group. Consenting individuals matched for socio-demographic parameters and without any current or lifetime psychiatric illness formed the healthy control group. The details related to illness were carefully ascertained by clinical interview of patient and by reliable information obtained from an adult first degree relative. Now, the method that was used was emotions matching and labeling task. This consisted of human faces depicting anger, fear, sadness, and disgust emotions obtained from a validated tool. The tool was tool for recognition of emotions in psychiatric disorders to explore the complex emotion processing function with relevance to frontolimbic circuitry. This TRENDS experiment, this tool was modified to incorporate matching and labeling tasks as well based on pre-existing studies. In this experiment, the subjects performed three tasks: matching facial emotions, labeling facial emotions, and control tasks. The task was designed and delivered using E-Prime technology running on a laptop. Images were displayed at a resolution of 1024 into 768 pixel via an LCD screen kept about 45 centimeters away from the subject. In the matching task, the subjects were presented with a target face along with two other faces of different individuals on the same screen. They were then asked to select which one of the two faces presented on the same screen expressed the same emotion as that of the target face. In the labeling task, the subjects viewed the same target face, but here they had to judge which of the two labels, like fear, anger, or sadness, disgust, given below the target, best describe the facial emotion of the target. The paradigm consisted of 16 experimental blocks, 4 blocks each of matching and labeling, interleaved with 8 control blocks. For each effect, 32 different images were used, 8 per block, 2 of each gender, 2 of old age, and 2 of young. For control task, geometric forms were used. Each matching and labeling block consisted of 8 stimuli of 10-second duration, and the control block also consisted of the same duration, and it consisted of 4 stimuli. The sample size in each group required was estimated as 19, considering a moderate effect size for ANOVA statistic. One-way ANOVA was used to examine the differences in age and years of education between the three groups. To examine the difference in sex distribution, a chi-square test was employed. All FERD parameters were again analyzed using this ANOVA. The differences in accuracy and RT for matching and labeling the fear, anger emotions, and sadness, disgust emotions were analyzed between the three groups. Bonferroni corrected p-value of less than 0.006 was considered as a statistically significant difference. Pearson's correlation was employed to examine the relationship of various FERD measures and variables like age, age of onset, years of education, and number of mood episodes. Coming to the results, we have the box and whisker plot of the various results. The interpretation is now, according to the analysis, the matching accuracy of fear and anger came out to be lesser in the bipolar disorder compared to healthy controls, but it was equal in the high risk patients and healthy controls. Similarly, matching accuracy of sadness and disgust was less in bipolar disorder patients than the healthy controls, but it was equal amongst the healthy controls and the high risk patients. The labeling accuracy wherein we got the results of bipolar, it was less in bipolar disorder and healthy high risk patients than the healthy controls. And the labeling accuracy of sadness and disgust was, again, we got similar results like previously, wherein bipolar disorder showed a deficit in comparison to healthy control, but the labeling accuracy was same for healthy control and high risk individuals. This study's main finding is that both bipolar disorder and high risk subjects demonstrate specific deficits in fear and anger emotion labeling compared to healthy controls, which now this could be a potential endophenotype for bipolar disorder. There were no differences in emotion processing between bipolar disorder and high risk subjects, whereas bipolar disorder subjects in remission exhibited other FERD deficits too, in addition to labeling, compared to healthy controls. Studies have demonstrated poor performance of face emotion recognition deficits among the disordered disease subjects in comparison with healthy controls, as shown in the present study. A meta-analysis further reveals that impairment in bipolar disorder are associated with abnormality in facial affect recognition, highlighting the importance of this parameter. A study that compared the FERD among childhood onset and adult onset bipolar disorder showed that those with childhood onset had higher deficits. Now, this might interfere with the developmental trajectory itself. A recent study attempted to look at emotion recognition by a task that used light displays of human full figures moving in a manner indicative of a basic emotion. The results in this study showed that individuals with bipolar disorder, both type 1 and type 2, had significant impairment in ability to perceive emotions. The impairment was global, that is, it was affecting all of the emotions. A previous study on first-degree relatives of children with bipolar disorder demonstrated a labeling deficit as an important finding. This indicates that deficits in facial emotional labeling may be a risk marker for developing the disease in the future. Now, studies in pediatric bipolar disorder have shown ventral affective system, which encompasses the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex and limbic regions, especially the amygdala, as the regions implicated in FERD. In mania, the subjects had poor ability to, the disease subjects had poor ability to recognize fear and disgust, whereas in euthymic state, the subjects recognize disgust better. According to Molly et al., they reported the differential brain activation patterns for fear compared to disgust in the diseased patients and the healthy controls. Now, two recent studies also showed that the high-risk subjects have more FERD, especially in recognizing emotions of sadness, anger, and fear. Euthymic bipolar patients responded largely to fear, whereas healthy subjects responded almost exclusively to disgust in that study. In conclusion, this study demonstrated that adult euthymic bipolar patients have significant emotion cognitive processing deficits across a wide range of emotions. This may have clinical significance with respect to the psychosocial functioning. On the other hand, high-risk subjects appear to have relatively specific higher order cognitive abnormalities subserving unique emotions, pointing towards a potential endophenotypic nature of these deficits. Further rigorous examination of these specific abnormalities and their imaging-based neural substrates is required. Such studies can help us enhance the understanding of neurobiology of the disease and its neurocognitive vulnerability attributes. These are my references. Thank you. These are the references of the study.
हो गया पूरा हमारा ये तो तुमने जर्नल पढ़ लिया what is your like this is not part of your journal club is like to present the what is your analysis
Sir, according to this study, they were trying to find out a potential endophenotype, whether face emotion recognition deficits could be used as that. Now,
study particularly, do you have any like what are the strong points, what are the weak points? Study.
So the weak points of the study are that
any errors or you can say the results that they have put out. Do you agree with them?
Sir, the weak points of the study, sir, they used fear, anger, sadness, and disgust. Sir, they did not use happy as an emotion anywhere, sir, happy and neutral emotion. Then, sir, out of the 4 tasks, both the matching and sir, the labeling of sadness and disgust, sir, it was not what was hypothesized. In only one hypothesis that was being fulfilled, that high risk and by diseased may, sir, that was deficit. Otherwise, sir, in the rest, the healthy controls and high risk, they showed the same, sir. That was the same, sir, the labeling and the task. Apart from that, sir, the handedness part, sir, they only took right-handed.
Let's start with the title. Do you agree with the title of the study? Is it appropriate to the study that is conducted? What is the study? By reading the study, what do you think the study does? What is the study?
So it is trying to establish this as a potential biomarker, endophenotype.
You have given introduction also the emotional processing can involve a number of things, right?
Yes.
So do you think that they have assessed emotional processing in the studied it? Okay. Endophenotype, what is endophenotype?
So it is
yes. क्या होता है endophenotype?
So it can be used as a potential biomarker or as an inherent trait that the patient, that the healthy subject might, which might help us
in. What is the benefit of that?
It can be used as a tool which might help us in identifying the disease prior to the development. Risk.
और कोई बोलना है आपको? ये very best time. Tanya, you read the study? अगर तुझे पढ़ के नहीं आएगा, you will not be allowed to attend. What did you understand this? Where did they take the patients from? ठीक है इंडोर से लिया आउटडोर से लिया लिखा है कैसे उन्होंने पेशेंट्स दिया कोई उनको सीवियर डिसीज मिल गया में कितना है किसी का कोई 1 साल के लिए रिमिशन में कोई 5 साल के लिए रिमिशन में कैसे क्राइटेरिया उन्होंने एक्सप्लेन किया कि कैसे क्राइटेरिया उन्होंने पेशेंट्स के दिया सैंपल सिलेक्शन sample कैसे लिया आपने स्टडी पढ़ा था
yes
how did they take the study sample can we project these findings to the they are doing a basic study
yes
it is not that this this study cannot be applied to the population as a whole so, can these findings be applied to the whole bipolar patients so how did they how was the sample selection have they explained anything?
I did not find.
Second, so whether it first thing is whether the patient population It represents the disorder. Okay. आप जब पढ़ोगे, you have done that research वाला जो NPTEL का कर लिया, कर लिया है, उसमें है सैंपल कैसे या फिर जो है सैंपल इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, मोर इम्पोर्टेंट स्टडी कि आपका जो सैंपल है वो इट प्रेजेंट्स तो आप उसको कहाँ से अपने हेल्दी कंट्रोल कहाँ से लेना.
So that also they've not mentioned.
अब केयर गिवर ले लिया जो रिलेशन में है या मान लो उसको फर्स्ट डिग्री की सेकंड डिग्री रिलेटिव ले लिया, they are not specified. Okay. बाकी स्टडी पढ़ोगे तभी तो पता चलेगा. आप अगर थीसिस करोगे, थीसिस में ये सब एरर्स नहीं होने चाहिए. सैंपल साइज उन्होंने कैसे कहा, उन्होंने लिखा है जाके हम राइटिंग में, पर कैसे उन्होंने सैंपल साइज किया, कैलकुलेट किया.
Sir, that was a question, sir. उन्होंने mention नहीं किया.
नहीं, सैंपल साइज they mentioned that 19 they came to. How also power of study उन्होंने 0.8 किया, which is like
mentioned.
हाँ रेफरेंस माना है, रेफरेंस की बताया कि कहाँ पर उन्होंने रेफरेंस किया है, कैसे उनका प्रोसेस. ओके आयुषी क्या पढ़ा, बड़ा स्टडी यहाँ पे जो बताया डॉक्टर समझ में आया क्या, बेसिक बताओ क्या क्या होगा स्टडी में, व्हाट डिड दे डू. Do you understand what is a medical study? It's a clinical trial. They have compared three groups. Right. A bipolar patient is condition. Age group उन्हें 50 से 18 चल दिया. So my number one title of the study. They have studied just facial expression response. Okay, usually you take a battery to test before you can say that we have tested the whole of the emotion response. Okay. So I'll come later. Your input for the study.
Why do you think the
They applied that.
why?
Your sample collection was 2011 to 14. 7 years.
So what is your like? क्या हो सकता है? हो जाता है. स्टडीज पढ़ी है 4 साल. आपने पब्लिक आपने एक जगह दिया, रिजेक्ट कर दिया, आपने दूसरी जगह दिया, रिजेक्ट कर दिया, आपने तीसरी जगह दिया, वैसे करके you start from the highest and then you come down. That also speaks like maybe it was rejected or
why they have left out the non-right. So they might say that non-right persons are very less. So how do you even consider them? Like general population, the prevalence is 79%. Okay. So they might be ignoring that. But the thing is that if you go to certain studies that found out stuff. Increased rate of non-diagnosed bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. With schizophrenia, it goes up to 40%. There are some studies which are saying that non-high diagnosis is actually more represented in the population of schizophrenia, like about 40%, which is 4 times that of the general population. And in bipolar disorder, it may be around somewhere around 50-20%. So it is not that we can ignore these people. We cannot. So this is one point. So one reference to that. Another when you go to trends, they use this. So 3 authors are involved in development of these authors are involved in development of
Trends.
So when you go to these trends, they have 7 emotions. The 6 basic emotions and 1 mental. 7 emotions they have. And what they have done is that every emotion they have tried to level and match also in trends. But here, what they have done, they have just changed 2 composites, not even emotions. Here and there, they have taken as 1. Sad discuss they have taken. Happy though they have excluded altogether. But here and there as 1. They have not told about 4 emotions. They have told about 2 composites. So even if someone is making a guess, it might be true. So what is the use of this using composites? They have not mentioned. Although in the original form of trends, they have themselves taken 7 emotions separate, not as a composite. Okay, so this is one pitfall which might be looked into the study. Yeah, so what is conformity correction?
Yes, that also I want. Conformity correction.
What is conformity correction?
So that we want to
Already is called as Holmes conformity. It is the conformity correction.
I think some reviewer must have asked that is why they. Anyway,
Yes, that's what that is. And they have mentioned actually. You have taken the first line only. The second line is conformity correction level of less than 0.006 was considered as a statistic symptom defense based on at least 8 tests of registration examining the intergroup differences in this session. So how did they arrive with the space symptom calculation? 0.05 division 8. So but what is that? You have to go through study. What is that? And what are the loopholes of conformity correction also? It is not a conformity correction करेंगे तो बिल्कुल correct हो जाएगा. नहीं उसका भी loopholes है. For that you will know what is given. What's given? How do you discover it? Brief distance. 0.05 to often tell.
sure. I think we are short of time. So the basic thing is journal club is a club. Okay, you are presenting. The main, you are a moderator. You start a discussion, and you are supposed to go in depth of the article. And the main homework of a person who like for everyone is to things like that. If somebody asks what is corrected, okay, what is anchor phenotype? The authors, you have to tell a little bit about the authors also, from where they belong, what is the area of research. Okay, try to get, say, to the root of the article. Many times they you can find out the international articles, like where it was conducted, whether it was a part of a bigger project, from where they have taken the study, etc. Okay, so you try to get into how the research was conducted. Okay, so it is to understand the research methodology and to try to find out. This article I read, like general usually main problem in board articles is that people are nitpicking. यहाँ पे कॉमा नहीं, यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं है ना, यहाँ पे टाइपोग्राफिकल एरर है. So it is difficult to find. Here again, it is a team. Everybody on 2 comments. तो इसमें मुझे लगा first of all the title. It could be FERD in bipolar. That is I think more appropriate because that is
the title is not representing of
yes.
actual
So our title facial emotion deficient in bipolar disorder. That would be better representing the study. Second thing, when you make a say you derive a conclusion. So this test, what does it do? You know how they do this test? So image comes on the screen and the person has to say it is depression, it is sad, it is anger, it is disgust, whatever he has to say. And he has like 10 seconds to say. 10 seconds for that. Okay. and then it is recorded, then the next image comes. So he's after one the images are coming and he's saying, okay, so you record them. So we know there are studies which say that the cognitive functioning is an end of function. Okay, so cognitive functions are there in bipolar disorders, in remission, and in high risk also. They are found in uh, higher percentage than the healthy controls. Okay, so whether it is because of cognition, because the person there is like attention. So attention, how they study, they like triangle is coming, square is coming. Yes, just say whenever triangle comes, yes, it is. So it is the test of attention also. It is test of set shifting also. Like suddenly, like he presses 2 times discuss. So he says every time he's saying discuss. So that's what Dr. Gossip says. So even hit and trial, if he keeps on saying one response, doesn't shift.
So you
Okay.
also some correct responses.
Okay, so this is so whether it was set shifting, problem in set shifting, problem in attention, that we don't know. They should have conducted a, you can say, some test on attention. With that to say that this is not because of attention, but purely because of emotion process. Usually it is done. I have done studies where we have done this. So attention also you do, your emotion also you do. You say that okay, attention is not affected, so it is not contributable to attention, and only to emotional processing, you can say. Then we can draw the conclusion. Here, maybe it was just because they were not attentive. They were making wrong guesses. Okay. So that also is not. Okay. Sample size is, I think, small. How they have calculated that, we have not known. Okay.
From where they're taking the sample, right? It's specifically not nature. They might have been very biased by using samples.
Yes. The samples, how they select the samples. So samples also, you can be having patients who are more, you can say, having a longer follow-up or maybe in longer remission. So that is not mentioned anywhere, right? So these are all the things. A lot of other things also you can kind of use. But some of these things that you can say that what you are doing in your study, what all the process you went through, the sample size, what things kya honge. Many 5 they've taken, so I think that is also like whether it was translated to structured. CGI तो क्या था हमारे लिए? CGI is for scientific location. Now हम उसको करने सकते हैं. So all of you, Journal Club, give it in advance so that other people don't have an excuse that they did not read. Number 1, number 2, analyze it as a reviewer. Okay, like how would you review the study? Get into the whether you can understand whether some information more that you wanted from the study that is missing. Whether there is unnecessary information that you think should have been kept out. Okay. What is the sample size? How did they get the sample size? What are the tools? Whether the tools are appropriate to capture what the person is wanting to capture. Then application. Okay. Then results, stats. What are the stats? Whether the statistical analysis is appropriate, or you think that something is required. Then whether the conclusion drawn can be derived from the results or not. And then in discussion, how they have described those their results, how they have explained those results. In the discussion also, they have not discussed. That is actually looking like a review of literature.
Exactly. They have just forgotten their study. And they have given some other reviews that they have discussed about them. They have discussed about other studies in the.
That should have come more in the
They have not even gone to their own studies.
introduction of background part would have come, and then they could have commented how our study is finding, how compared to others, why how it is better, what are the and good like good studies they do this, and then they also publish their own limitations. This is what we should have done for future, but the good thing is that nowadays these tests are available. We can conduct research on that better. 10 years ago, they were very costly. Now they're more easily available.
Okay, sir, Indian Indian emotion. So जैसे हम सीटीपी में देखते हैं ना हम पहला पता पढ़ने के बाद इमोशंस का देखते हैं चेहरा वो विदेशी थे अभी इंडियन इमोशंस भी आ गए मतलब सर इंडियन केसेस आए हैं वो इंडियन सॉफ्टवेयर का पहले निकाला अब मुझे देख रहा था तो एक दो दिन बाद
This is one area of research. Types are important because you can find the high risk group अगर you find out and you found that they are sensitive. So you can identify the at-risk population. Then in future research, maybe we can carry out some interventions. Like if we intervene in some high-risk groups, whether we are able to prevent primary prevention. Okay, whether we are able to prevent the disorder from coming out at all. That could be the future research. Okay, then say whether we can get a better understanding of the disorder. That these are the core, you can say, diagnostic characteristics that are there. We can include whether we can include these characteristics as a diagnostic criteria for bipolar disorder. So one of the issues is that we don't have any objective criteria. So whether we can have some tests like this where we put one of these criteria that because this is present in high risk, this is present in cases. So this is one thing that will be there in bipolar patients. So you can put it as like, okay, we do this test, and if this is not there, then we can speak that it is not there.
this abnormal emotion processing. I think one of the references you have given, the bipolar disorder might be a result of abnormal emotion processing. One reference. So this abnormal emotion processing has been in various psychiatric disorders, not only bipolar, psychosis, or even we see this in our childhood disorders,
Autism.
So this is not a very specific thing. For the endophenotype, we have to be a bit specific also. Sensitive is okay, specific also. So it is not very specific thing. That is one loophole also. Okay, we are having an endophenotype, and then what will you do about it? What are you going to do? Because the country like India, every endophenotype it doesn't differentiate also.
Exactly. If it doesn't differentiate autism and bipolar, then autism also people are different in difficulty in
And they have very cleverly left out because yesterday I was sitting with the reference that they have given of those four criteria sir, for endophenotype for being a treasure, they have very cleverly left out that word. We have to differentiate. If a master will differentiating power, I don't think that is there. See, the differentiating point is not there. However, in the 13 reference number 13, when you go into that article, there is this point of differentiation. In the abstract itself, it is there. So they are very cleverly left out there. The abnormal emotion processing is often in various sectors.
So, yeah, so you see an article which on the face of it, if you read it, appears very good article. When you go to the depth, then it appears that there are loopholes. So you can identify what is a good quality article. Comments? Karina? Also,
Sir, I think the article is very good to read. We can actually own our skills of reading an article in this article. I think great selection for the article. And we should have this practice of writing to the editor so that they will also respond. They will respond back to us. They will try to defend. Okay. Even if they don't publish, they will still defend. They will write to a big letter. Okay. So of defending their own or if they cannot defend, they will just publish it. So I think it will help them practice.
I've said a lot. So I think that journal club is different from just presenting that. That anybody, that's not the part. Basic part is getting into the critical analysis. So today I allowed the whole presentation of the article. It takes a lot of time. So you're not supposed to do it. Just abstract brief summary and not read out the whole article. Just highlights that you want to tell. Okay. And then come to the main part, the crux of journal club is the critical analysis of the journal. The strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the corrections, what are the message for a future. If you want to do study like this, whether we can, it is feasible, we can conduct it, and how we can improve on it. So maybe or take ideas for future studies. So that part is the must. Okay. JR1 should be able to understand the article. Okay. And they have to ask questions. मैम ये बताइए पेपरेट करेक्शन क्या होता है? अगर आप बहुत ज्यादा डेटा लेते हो उसको आप रैंडमली ना उसको रन करते हो, यू कैन ड्रॉ नंबर ऑफ कंक्लूजन्स. ओके, सो अवॉइड दैट. ऐसा नहीं कि आपने जो है जैसे मैंने ओपीडी का डेटा ले लिया उसको कुछ करूंगा तो कुछ तो निकल जाएगा मेल फीमेल को डिफरेंस. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप जो है उसको actually that your statistics that you applied has some significance. अगर randomly नहीं निकलता, it is not a chance. Okay. That is what I remember. And maybe I stack.
Actually, the test of validation, like the more the number of tests, the commonly you divide it. So that's the example that you can study. But the thing is that even by that correction, it's all about false positives and false negatives. So when you decrease the chances of false positives, there is this fine balance that you have to apply. Okay. So every time, not all the journals ask for controlling correction. Like in my case, I did not do controlling correction. They will not ask for it. But some journals do ask if they think that this month, if they think the results are being biased because of that.
Like if I जितने blood tests होते हैं सबका मैं analysis करता रहता हूँ. So I have 100 tests and out of them one comes significant. And I say that this is now my hypothesis and you reverse engineer करके मैं काट के छापता हूँ. So that is not the correct thing because you have to in research you have to be prospective. आप पहले background से you have to decide that I am going to check these things and then do the test. Okay, it can't be like suddenly I say that total iron binding is significantly more present in schizophrenia cases where it is just a chance finding or I have just done a number of tests. से निकाल लिया मैंने कोई तो सब में स्टैट्स लगाया तो स्टैट्स लगाने की थी एक कंप्यूटर और एक निकल गया तो दैट इज नॉट द वे टू डू. वी जस्ट इट हैज टू बी पर्सपेक्टिव.
ऐसे स्टडीज है स्टैटिस्टिक्स के दम पे अलग स्टडी निकालते हैं. जेनेटिक कंसोर्टियम का स्टडी था मतलब वहां से उनका डेटा है उन्होंने आराम से नेचर में पब्लिश किया है. मतलब पूरा स्टैटिस्टिक्स निकाल कुछ एक्स्ट्रा सैंपल कलेक्शन नहीं हुआ है. 2-3 स्टडीज से सैंपल लिया है स्टैटिस्टिक्स किया है.
Sure. मतलब इतना आपको पता है क्लासेस की सुबह के टाइम पे usually extends